So here I have the exhaust manifold, one of the components of the exhaust pipe, and there's a water cooling system in it. And I figured after using the limescale remover for the engine and it being so good, I'm gonna soak these in that also, and it should clean the inside of these waterways and, you know, potentially help clean them out. So this has been soaking now for just overnight, maybe about 14 hours, and you can see there's a kind of a surface level scum which has shown up, and that is often what is created. It's like a combination of bubbles and some of the crust and the limescale coming off. So I've left it for a few more hours and you can see there's even more stuff that's circulated, and I think it's probably pretty clean now, so I'm gonna dump all the water and I'm gonna hose it down, and the hosing down will hopefully blast off any of the loose stuff left over. They're so much more clean and new looking now. Way back at the start of the build, we removed this exhaust component, and it's since been cleaned up, so it looks very different. But on the end of it, we took off this piece and this. As you can see, when we took that off, that was in awful shape. Totally corroded and eaten through. And this actually has two gaskets on it, and another gasket here, and holes. Really complete trash. Luckily, our good friends at Yamaha are still making these parts. We have a brand new one to go on. The machining of this is so nice. It's skimmed and cast, and I'm very excited to put this on. And in this bag I have the other bits. Our new mesh plate and our two gaskets. The way this goes together is there's one gasket that's placed on the back side of the mesh, one gasket that goes on the front side of the mesh, like this, and this goes together, and then it's bolted on onto that end. The first torque value is 3.7 Newton meters for the first tightening, and the second tightening is 7.6 Newton meters. And he recommends to use Loctite 572, so that's what we're going to use. What this unit does is basically it restricts the outflow of water on the cooling ring of the exhaust through these three small holes, and it forces the water to come out at a higher pressure, which maintains back pressure on the cooling system of the exhaust. And the exhaust comes out of this centerpiece here, and it flows through, and then they join and head into the main cooling exhaust bong, if you'll have it. There we have it. Another component reassembled, one step closer to being back on the water. Remove that seal, that will need replacing. Finally take this out. And I can finally remove the timing chain. There we go. There's the timing chain off as well. Just gotta watch out because it's very oily. But it's looking good inside, it's looking clean. Right, so I've put the engine on its back after taking the end off. And I'm about to do something which you're not meant to do unless you're fully rebuilding the engine. But I hate doing what I'm told. And I see rusty bolts. Here, here, here. This one is especially bad. I don't like leaving rusty bolts in holes after doing such an extensive restoration. So what I'm going to do, and what I've done already, is remove bolts like this. The thing is, they're all torqued specifically to keep the whole engine built together. So I'm going to remove them one by one and replace them one by one. So technically only ever one bolt is out at a time. These need to be properly torqued as per the manual. So what we have here is a rusty bolt I just removed from this hole. And what we have here is a beautiful brand new bolt from Yamaha, made in Japan, to replace it with. As you can see, out with the old, in with the new. So let's get cracking. The manual specifies these are torqued to 12 Newton meters, and it specifies to use a Loctite 572. Now, just to give you some backstory on this Loctite. Loctite 572 is really hard to get and it's really expensive. But I looked up what it's made of, and it's essentially a flexible pipe thread seal. So it takes a bit longer to set and it's a bit more flexible when it is set. The components, the ingredients are hydroethyl metacrylate. Hydroethyl metacrylate is what Loctite 572 contains, and after some extensive research I found this will do the job. It's not the exact same, but it will do. So that's what we're going to use. Try and keep things as close to the manual as possible. This sealant is quite toxic, so make sure you're wearing gloves if you use it. It's actually green. There we go, there's one. 12 Newton meters, done. Out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah, and then you need the bushings as well, don't you?
Old and crusty.
Sounding bird. Sorry about the noise.
So now we have new bolt fitted here, here, here and here. I don't have replacements for that, but it'll be fine. On the other side here, we have one there, there, and one here. And this hole too. So now is the part where we're going to change the anode. The anode fits into this piece on the side of the engine here. This is actually under the exhaust side, so it's not really easy to see from on top of the ski, but it's very important to change the anode because that's really going to look after your ski. Inside here is a water cooling passage. I'm going to shine a light in. So you can see that is where the anode sits. It sits into this gap here. And water flows around the pistons, flows past the anode, and when it flows past the anode, it prevents the block itself corroding. So as you can see, I removed this anode from here. It was absolutely toasted. I mean, absolutely in pieces, because I'll show you now what a new anode looks like. Here is a new anode assembly. You can see comparable difference between the two, the one I'm taking out. This entire unit is just broken off and crumbly. This is the anode, this is the piece which protects your engine. So in this case, because it's literally welded in, you can just buy the whole anode unit assembly together. I think it's pretty expensive, it's about 50 quid, but as you can see, absolutely needed in this case. And this just sits into that area, like so. And once it's in there, you can see it's just slightly exposed in that water channel, and that exposure is enough to stop the corrosion of the block. For Loctite 271. And tighten this to 20 Newton meters. In this part we are going to be reassembling the gear end of the engine. Like with all reassemblies, I have my diagram for all of the torques. I've got the parts, there's a new O-ring there, new bolts, new timing chain, and I have my old bolts in the configuration. I removed them so I don't forget the order they went in, as this is a bit of a complicated pattern of bolts and they're all different lengths, as you can see here. So let's dig right in. Brand new timing chain. I didn't need to replace this, but I chose to anyway, just to be safe. We've come this far, might as well go the full Monty. There we go, that's now slotted into place. Now we can add our resting bar. Just make sure that they link in properly, and then your other rest goes on this side. You have the timing chain on the center gear, that resting plate on this side, and this tensioner arm on the other. Next thing for us to do is to put the O-ring into this gap. I have cleaned this, but I haven't degreased it. I don't want to get any degreaser on these main gears, so I just cleaned it, and we're going to place it in with some oil. Like with the other O-rings, I'm using some engine oil to lubricate the O-ring. This O-ring is somewhat pre-shaped, so it's pretty easy to figure out where it needs to go. When lining it up, it's important to line up your pin with your pinhole here, and obviously your main crankshaft into the main bearing. The rest of the gears should just fit together. You can rotate one of the gears through a T-head shaft here, which connects to the oil pump. That's what was stopping it clipping in. Now I've moved that, it's fine. The torque on all the big bolts is 15 Newton meters to start, and then you finish with 28 Newton meters. The first one to tighten, there's no particular order to tighten, so. now 28 Newton meters. These ones are 7.6 Newton meters. The remaining bolts are all part of the oil pump assembly. Just give it a turn, make sure it's moving freely, and we did everything right. Perfect, that feels good.